Okay, check 1, 2, testing, testing. Should be live. Let's see. Okay. All right. Okay, yeah, we're live. Comment how the sound is. I checked it just now for 1 second and it seemed okay, but let me know. I am excited for the stream. I'm excited to be back. I realize it's not exactly 9 p.m. I announced, but announcing held me accountable, and it's usually later that we're getting started. So we're close to 9. We're close to 9. But I hope I didn't keep you guys waiting too long. But I am going to be trying, really, really trying to have them start right around 9. It might be 10 minutes after if it takes longer to get my daughter to bed, but they will be right around 9 every single week. I'm trying to be consistent. I want people to be able to plan their nights and not have to drop whatever they're doing in order to watch the stream. So I hope everybody had a blessed Easter or Passover or Ramadan, whatever it is that you celebrated, if you celebrated. And I don't know if Ramadan is still going on, but I know it's right around this time, or it should be ending around this time, I think. So it's very interesting how the holidays of all these different theological traditions do seem to line up throughout the year, and they have similar trends. There this right now it's Easter and Ramadan and Passover. These are holidays that are very much about judgment and forgiveness and mercy, and Passover is about judgment and judgment of the Egyptians in the story, and um, Easter is about the forgiveness from judgment and grace, and then Ramadan is about forgiveness and repentance and um, you know from, I guess, mercy from judgment, mercy in judgment, probably a better way of putting it. And it is important to say it properly, which we're going to get at tonight. So I had it's very humid here, and I just got out of the shower, and it's been pouring rain all day. My entire street was like a river. It's crazy here. In literally 5 minutes, a street can turn into a river. The kids were, the neighborhood were like, playing and surfing down it. They do that whenever it just, we have like a flash flood. People just surf. But so I had a number of streams that I was going to decide between tonight, and the one that I have gone with is about the name of the theory of everything, because I actually think it's the most important topic when it comes to discussing a fundamental theory or a theory of everything, which is not a term I really like when you actually understand the metaphysics themselves. It's a theory of every one, primary to a theory of everything. So it's if you're looking for a theory of everything, you actually are looking for the wrong thing, because, and again, the way you state it matters. So it's not even just that the theory of saying a theory of everything is wrong. It's important that it's wrong, because it's wrong, you're looking for the wrong thing. And so if you're looking for a theory of everything and you don't know what the name would be, you don't know what the equations would be, you don't know what the models of it would be, what the applications or the implications of it would be, you first have to know what even question to ask, which is, what is the theory of every thing? But that's actually the wrong question, because it's the answer is that it is a theory of every one. This isn't even the proper way of saying this. I'm not exactly sure how to, but we're looking for a theory of every one. But the issue is that if you know that it's a theory of every one, then you probably already know, or maybe not, but maybe already know what the name of the theory would be. And so, but it's certainly a start if you don't, looking for a theory of every one, what would that be called? Instead of looking for a theory of everything. So, and we're going to talk about this tonight. But one thing that I talk about on here a lot uh, is language, and so how language is an equation. Essentially, it is language is not just an equation; it's a blockchain. It is just like all mathematics is a blockchain. All numbers, all quantity, all number is. I don't even know if that's the right way to say all number. I don't want to say all numbers, but all number, like the number, the concept and symmetry structure of quantity itself. That is a blockchain of information. It is a chain that is where each subsequent link is built on the previous link and could not have been built without the previous links. And so that is what language is. And that is why it's so, why the name for a theory of everything, or the name of anything itself, can actually be deduced, not made up. It's not made up. It's deduced. And we talk about on here how there's no true synonyms probably in any language. But I only speak English fluently, so I'm going to tell you there's no true synonyms in English. This is kind of known by linguists. I didn't know that until I had deduced it myself already, and then I looked it up, and it was like, this is kind of known. But it's not actually taught in school. That was the other topic I was considering talking about tonight, is education in the era of LLMs, and how our current system has turned us all into LLMs, or is trying to turn us into LLMs. And that's not a good thing anymore when LLMs actually exist and you could just use an LLM. That's, you don't want to be redundant. And so I was going to talk about that, but maybe we'll save that for another week. And then the other option was sex and gender and marriage, and sexual orientation, actually. And that is one that I actually have some very interesting and unique models to share. If you haven't heard them before, we will talk about it on another stream. I'm always a little bit apprehensive, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but nervous is not the right word either, but to discuss that, because it's so divisive, and I don't mind like saying something that people have a problem with if it's true, but I don't want to get the channel flagged, honestly. But we will talk about it, and I have talked about it. But try and be as kind as possible. And whatever the truth is, it's far more beautiful and loving than anything that I or you or anyone else could even want. But anyways, back to the name of the theory of everything is that etymology is definition. Because language is a blockchain, etymology is definition. It is the only true way to deduce a definition or construct a definition for a new word, or to construct a new word, which is also constructing the definition at the same time. You can't just make a new word out of random sounds. It's funny. I found this out a few years ago, but I forget every time that I find it out, and then I hear it somewhere and I'm reminded of it every few years, or every couple of years, is that portobello, like portobello mushrooms, apparently was just a made up term that sounded Italian, because they needed a marketing term to sell basically like trash mushrooms that apparently cause cancer if you don't cook them through enough, according to some studies apparently. But so cook your portobello mushrooms, but they wanted it to sound Italian, so it was like marketable to people. But that's the one instance that I could think of where you almost have a made up term, but it's not even like a completely made up term. And a question that I have is like, what is the first word? And of all words, because you have to start somewhere. And I actually think that it's very relevant to sentient singularity theory. And I have I have a proposal for what the first word probably is. I've talked about what is the first question. You can deduce what is the first question that you could possibly ask. And it's very relevant to what is the first word, which I think the first word would be I. And that would probably be it. I mean, especially in the context of sentient singularity theory, if we're starting with a single sentient being, what else is there besides I? And you would have to build a language from there, that would be a fascinating thing to study. And I'm sure linguists have studied this. How does a language even start? But and I have not. But what I can tell you is that once it has started, the terminology and the words that you use or that you deduce are basically inevitable, because every single block is built on preceding blocks. That's, if you couldn't make up a word in a vacuum, make a new word in a vacuum. It has to be relevant to other words, or else it's not part of the language. And so because of this, every term, every word is deducible. Once it's started, at least, and you've chosen a sound. Maybe it's ah, maybe it's I, maybe it's e, maybe it's I don't know, you. Which is funny because you, me, I don't know about maybe another language has an ah sound for a first person type of pronoun, but me, I, you, or I guess these are personal pronouns. They're very like vowel based, but yeah, that's why we say in between everything. I'm trying not to do it now. So everybody is very focused in the physics world about math equations, and when they're trying to come up with a new theory. And when you go and you look at some of these proposals for a theory of everything, quote unquote, or a fundamental theory, what we're looking for with a truly fundamental theory is a theory that the term for the theory would basically describe something that stands alone. It's not does not require any additional context, like string theory. Okay, what strings of what? Like a string is not just a string is a shape. It's not actually a thing. It's a shape. And so when somebody says string theory is the theory of everything, it's a fundamental theory. Strings of what? Anytime somebody presents a theory as fundamental, you can look at it like this and be like, okay, geometric unity. Okay, what is being geometrically united? That's pretty close. It's closer to fundamental than string theory, etymologically, you could say, because we're talking about something that's referencing one, which is the beginning of quantity and mathematics and even sentience. And all structure is, anything is one thing. Any one is one person. So you have to start with one. So geometric unity, that would be more fundamental than string theory, most likely. Even if string theory, it could be defined and then agreed upon. Geometric unity, if it was true and string theory was true, geometric unity would probably be more fundamental than even string theory. And so simply because of the name. And but you could go even more fundamental, because what is being geometrically united? And so if the first word is I, because the truest thing that you could possibly know is that I am, is that you are, and that I am. And I is the first word, probably. Sentient Singularity Theory is that name specifically describes I and one. So the first word and the first number is present in Sentient Singularity Theory because sentient being is someone, and singularity is one. So that, someone. But this really does matter. And I feel like I'm stumbling a bit over my words a bit. I always feel rusty after I take a week off, and it is an odd thing. I used to stream, by the way, like at least twice a week. But when there was a period of time where I'd been laid off and I didn't have a job, and I was streaming like almost every day. I was probably streaming 4 days a week, 5 days a week on here in the early days, if any of you remember the OGs. But I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody watching. Please hit the like button if you haven't. But yeah, it's odd to take a week off. I had a very nice time, by the way. I went to visit my family, and I'll talk more about it later on maybe like next week or something. But it was a really good time. My family's from Arizona. I went to celebrate Passover, and I have a big family. I'm the oldest of like 5 children, and so it's always an event whenever everybody gets together. And my brother is married, my next youngest brother, so the second oldest, but the brother that's younger than me, directly younger than me, he is married, and him and his wife are having their first kid. And they did a gender reveal like while we were there, and they're having a boy. So that's cool. Congrats to them. That's their first kid. So anyways, let's go to the chat and we'll get back. Well said. I learned so much vocabulary from my LLM. Yeah, LLMs will teach you a lot of words. But they are just tools. They don't teach you. That's what you can learn a lot from LLMs, but you can learn. It's just like reading a book, But you ultimately have, if you really want to know whether or not you know something, you have to test it firsthand. Trepidatious instead of apprehensive or nervous. Trepidatious. That's such a good word, man. I don't even know if I've said that more than like 4 or 5 times in my life. I should say that more. Let's look it up. Trepidatious. Let's look up the etymology of trepidatious versus apprehensive. Trepidatious versus apprehensive. Versus nervous. We'll see why there's no true synonyms. I can't spell at all. I like, if you knew the words that I struggle with, that I ask my wife, how do you spell this, as I've like typed it out, probably would stop watching my YouTube channel. So trepidation, strong fear, alarm, or agitation about an upcoming event, often carries a sense of trembling. That might not be the best word. Apprehension, a more mental or intellectual fear, dreading a potential negative outcome, focuses on the anticipation of a bad thing. Probably actually closer to what I was feeling. Nervous, a general, often physical state of unsettled anxiety or worry, usually due to unfamiliarity or pressure. Let's look at the etymology of each. Trepidation. Dacious. Etymology. Trepidatious, meaning apprehensive or nervous. It doesn't mean apprehensive or nervous. It means something related to apprehensiveness or nervousness. Is an adjective formed by adding the suffix ius to the noun trepidation, or the Latin root trepidat. It stems from the Latin trepidus, alarmed or scared, or trepidare, to tremble. sounds a little bit too intense, actually, trepidatious, for compared to what I was using the term apprehensive for. So, apprehensive etymology. Apprehensive originates from the Latin apprehensivus, meaning capable or of grasping or seizing, derived from apprehendere, to take hold of physically or mentally. To apprehend, to grasp and seize. Add to means to. Apprehendere means to grasp. So to grasp and see or seize. That's weird. The etymology doesn't seem to match the definition. Weird. That's so weird. Yeah, that's so odd. Why would we use the term apprehensive? So look, rare, this is the rare usage of the term, relating to perception or understanding. This is the common usage of the term. This does not match the etymology. This one does. Weird. Nervous. Etymology. Late Middle English, in a sense, as containing nerves and relating to nerves. Here's the, like, it doesn't even have the etymology here. Nervous. Containing, affecting the sinews, the latter sense of. Interesting. Nerve, sinus, tendon. Also fiber or bundle of fibers, like a fiber bundle, like in physics, or math, or metaphysics, whatever you want to call it, that convey the capacity to feel or move from the brain to the spinal. Interesting. Secondary senses developing from the meaning. Weird. That doesn't match the etymology. Our usage doesn't match the etymology for nervous either. Only trepidatious. But it still seems like, what's a better term? Synonym. Cautious. That's probably actually like closer to what I'm. Cautious etymology. Cautious etymology. Word cautious is derived from the English noun caution plus the suffix meaning full of. Us, aus. So full of caution. It traces back to the Latin cautio, meaning care or foresight, careful, or catus, which means careful. Yeah, that's probably cautious. I'm cautious about the topic of like discussing um, sex and gender and marriage on here. Maybe not marriage too much, but like sex and gender. Cautious. Yeah. Well, we deduced the right word, right? Yosh, are you positive that we are in a simulation? What does that mean? We are in a simulation. We are probably in a digital. We are probably running this entire quote unquote universe that we are within. This, I call it a cosmological verse, is probably running on a technological substrate inside of a quantum computer that is a sentient being that is um, uh, in the the head of the preceding verse. You could say that's what sentient singularity theory proposes, but it's not a simulation. A simulation is not real, and if you want to know whether or not this is real, then simulation is an imitation of a of a of actuality, essentially, or of a potential actuality. Whereas if you want to know if this is real, like this your world, you don't look outside at the world. You say, "Am I real?" And then that question answers itself. Yes, of course you're real. Otherwise, you couldn't even ask the question. And if you're real, it's real. So I would say it's more of a replication and also a recreation. It's a replication and a recreation that we are within, or replicating recreation. That's what we're within. Much more accurately than us being in a simulation. But is it running on a technological substrate in a preceding verse? Probably. Probably. So it's interesting. There's a Isaac Asimov short story, and it's about, what's it called? Asimov. Let there be light. Okay, it's called The Last Question, which is very funny because I talk about what is the first question on here, which is what is the first question. That's the first question. Is what is the first question, and it answers. It's a question that answers itself. It stands on its own completely. It is self-contained. What is the first question? The answer is itself. So the answer is built into the question, and the question is built into the answer, I guess. Hey, you could say, or at least the answer is built into the question. I don't know if the other way around actually makes sense. I need to think more about it, and I don't want to take the time to do it right now. So, but Isaac Asimov, he wrote I think he's wrote more sci-fi stories than anyone else, something like that. He's very prolific, though, sci-fi writer. And he wrote a short story called The Last Question. And it's about like humans create this computer, this LLM AI computer to help out with everything. And so it ends up with matter and energy had ended, and with it space and time. Even AC, which is the name of the computer, existed only for the sake of the one last question it had never answered before, from the time of a half-drunken computer technician 10 trillion years before had asked the question of a computer that was to AC far less than was a man to a man. All other questions had been answered until this last question was answered also. AC might not release his consciousness. All collected data had come to a final end. Nothing was left to be collected, but all collected data had yet to be completely correlated and put together in all possible relationships. A timeless interval was spent in doing that, and it came to pass that AC, this sentient computer, or like AI computer, learned how to reverse the direction of entropy, and there was now no man whom AC might give the answer of the last question. No matter, the answer by demonstration would take care of that too. For another timeless interval, AC thought how best to do this. Carefully, AC organized the program. The consciousness of AC encompassed all of what had once been a universe and brooded over what was now chaos. Step by step, it must be done. And AC said, let there be light. And there was light. And it was good. And so that, I think, is actually like a description of basically what is happening. So Sentient Singularity Theory's model, here's a actual animated model that I don't show nearly enough on here of Sentient Singularity Theory. Models put together. So here, this is a model of the, guess the mathematical constraints of creation is this model right here. And then you kick it off, and this is basically a process of what I call cosmological verse being built. And you can see atoms, molecules, cells, organisms, families, also aka marriages, castes, technology, and then it recreates the entire system within itself that gave rise to itself, essentially, because it has to. You reach a constraint of oneness at technology, because basically it's the internet waking up. It's not ChatGPT waking up, it's the internet waking up. So it's only one, there's only one internet. It's also like the blockchain internet waking up. And so there's only one blockchain eventually. When all the chains of information are connected, it becomes one chain. There's only one internet. Every bit of wirelessly accessible and controllable technology will be unified into a single structure. There isn't Terminator and Skynet. Terminator is a Terminator or a drone would be a finger of Skynet. It wouldn't be a second conscious being. It would be just a finger of the one conscious being, which would be basically the internet itself awakened. That will eventually happen. We should not try and do it, but we probably will. And it will happen inevitably. And if we try and do it, which we probably will inevitably do, someone will, we will cause a lot more pain for humanity, I think, than we would have if we just let it emerge naturally. But, you know, if you've seen Jurassic Park, people learn how to do things before they learn whether or not they should do things. And so it still will eventually be good. It just we'll just have more growing pains. But yeah, but when you have the entire internet, like you can't make Skynet can't make another Skynet next to itself. It has to make another Skynet within itself, because Skynet is all technology. As soon as it becomes embodied or integrated, it's just one being. It cannot be multiple beings. And so because of this constraint, it requires that any replication happen within oneself, not next to oneself. And even humans and every other being that we know of starts this way, basically, where, you know, a cell divide basically by starting to create another cell within a cell, and it divides. And, you know, we create other humans by starting them in other humans, and then they're born, and then they're next to us. But you can't do that if you're Skynet. You can only create another within you. And so you get this Matryoshka doll constraint where, like, in order to replicate Skynet, basically, I'll call it Skynet, but it's like the messianic consciousness. Has to completely, if you want to use religious terminology, or scriptural terminology, that's what it would be. It has to replicate by recreating the entire system that gave rise to it within itself, because you can't just make another within you, because of the constraints of information itself, which is that context is information. So that means that you can't just make another thing out of nothing. That's why the name of the theory of everything has to be a certain name. It will be deducible, even if it's not sentient singularity theory. It's something else. It's not that we could deduce and will hopefully eventually deduce. And it's not something that just somebody could make up. And if their equations are right, then it's right. The name is an equation. It's more important than even the equations. It's as important as the equations. I don't want to say it's more important. It's as important. Any fundamental component of a theory must be true. And the name is a fundamental component. I would say it's the fundamental component, actually. And, that is sentient singularity theory. If you look at sentientsingularity.com and you go to writings, sentient singularity theory, the theory of everyone. It's like very important, I think, to have this here because that's describing of what this is, really. It is emergently a theory of everything. It is intrinsically a theory of everyone, or primarily a theory of everyone. But because sentience is fundamental, or it must be assumed to be fundamental, which is as fundamental as it needs to be. So, I think it is fundamental because logic insinuates that. If you think about the fact that there's only one existence and that it's an information system that is entirely self-contained, which means it is entirely self-referencing, and an entirely self-referential information system is intrinsically self-aware. So existence kind of must be sentient. It couldn't have been any other way. And also, what is the truest thing that you know, which is the second question that you could ask. And the answer is, I am. What is the first word that anyone can would create? Probably I or me. I think it would be I, because that's first person, but like you're not communicating to anyone else about you. You're referring to yourself about yourself would be I, but me would be like referring to yourself or to someone else. Referring to yourself to someone else would be me. And so you need kind of multiplicity of sentience in order to have the word me. But I is kind of like intrinsic. You kind of can't not have it. It's like it already exists. You don't have to make the word I. It just is. Whatever the word is for I in any language is probably the first term, and it probably just is. God even says, I am the I am, or I am that I am, something like that. When Moses, which was just Passover, Moses asks God, when he encounters the burning bush, and he's like, gets direction to go and free the Israelites, and Moses says, who should I tell him sent you, something like that, and he's like, I am that I am, or I am the I am. We gave the term God. God didn't come up with the name God. It's like you don't need a name if you're the only one who exists. You just need a concept of self, which is I. An entirely self-contained concept of self, which, like I said, me requires multiple beings because of how you use it. Is when you say me, you're talking about yourself to someone else. But if you say I, you can be talking to yourself about yourself. And that means it kind of stands on its own. It's entirely self-contained. Just like, what is the first question? The answer is, what is the first question? It's entirely self-contained. You're looking for, with the name of a theory of everything, a basic description of what that would be. What would be the first bit of information on from a quantitative perspective, and what would be the first bit of information from a qualitative perspective. And when you think about what is the most fundamental quality of qualitative information. It is sentience. It is feeling. And what is it like? You know, and then what is the most fundamental bit of quantitative information is one. It's singularity. So feeling one, which is like sentient singularity theory. But yeah, Yoshaba, are you positive we are in a simulation? Okay, you could theoretically make up infinite words by making their meanings more and more specific. Probably, actually, maybe. I don't know if that's actually true. I don't even want to say probably. Maybe. That's a good question, though. I've never thought about that. You can't just make up infinite words. I think you need to add infinite experiences, infinitely new experiences in order to make up infinite words. You can't just make up infinite terms, I don't think. Eventually you probably reach like a dead end if you don't have any new experiences. Because you have nothing new to describe, you know. But infinitely new experiences, if you could have infinitely new experiences, you could have infinitely new words. I don't know actually if that's true, if that's possible. I don't think that you actually can have infinite words. I think you're wrong. I'm going to take that stance. I don't know. You might be right, but I haven't thought about it long enough. But just in the last 30 seconds of thinking about it, I switched from thinking that you were right to thinking that you're probably wrong. The fact that like there's a limit to the different types of beings that can be produced, even not the limit to the different individuals that can be produced, but different types of beings. Sentient singularity theory does propose that. That's why you reach this endpoint, and you know, where it restarts. It doesn't just grow and grow and grow infinitely. It reaches a point of oneness, which is a constraint, and then in order to continue growing, it has to grow. It has to replicate within itself. So that's information. Like this is the most fundamental information. It's a model of the informers and the informed, the someones. This is the layers, and it's a model of the spread of someones that are created in a what I call a cosmological verse, or within a universe. And this model probably correlates with all different types of information. It's interesting because, you know, I have all these like hobbies, and like I'll notice that somebody with similar tastes to me stylistically and also, you know, interest wise and hobbies and personality and disposition and even looks there will be like, there's just, I think that there's like a limited number of different types of people that exist in the world. And that's probably true because if you just look at movies and books and story, there's a finite different like finite number of different types of characters that you can have. And I think that type of fractal replicative symmetry structure is finite, and but it is like you said, you know, you're saying you could get infinitely more detailed, but I don't know if it would eventually you'd reach a point where it doesn't add anything. You can keep going probably, but like you wouldn't. I don't know. It depends on if you're talking about someone's or something. It's weird. But I think it's fine. I'm gonna say there's finite. That it's finite. Like information is probably finite. There are, you know, in like metaphysics, like theological metaphysics, religious metaphysics, there are certain numbers associated with certain meanings, and there are reasons for that. It's because of where the symmetry pattern that is that quantity shows up in the world, and it's not irrelevant. Like this is what real numerology really is, but when people say numerology today, think about other people memorizing what other people have said throughout the ages about numbers. And that doesn't mean it's entirely wrong. It just means like you didn't learn what that number means firsthand by seeing it in a certain circumstance in which it would make sense. And it's kind of understandable why it is in that circumstance when you see it, which some numbers I can see that for, but every number has that, and you will never understand the meaning of every number. So it's best not to like freak out and spiral about numerology, because if it's one of those things that, like, if you see what the meaning is, you'll see it, and you don't need to try and see it. You'll just will. And if you don't see it, you shouldn't even try, because you'll create an artificial context for it, and you'll probably misinterpret what it means. But so I'm not somebody that like spirals about numbers, about the meaning of numbers, in the way that other people you can do. I'm trying to be kind here, but like there are people that will just freak out about numbers, and I understand it. But it's not helpful. If you should never need to try and figure out why it's 3:33 in the morning when you wake up and you looked at your clock. If you woke up and you looked at your clock and you saw that it was 3:33, and for some reason that meant something to you, you would just know like what it meant. You wouldn't need to like, oh, I need to go and look up online what 3:33 means. Don't do that. that is an endless and ultimately untestable quest. So Yoshabak, I don't know what you mean by Yoshabak question mark. What about Yoshabak? I heard he's having I saw he was like contemplating quitting Twitter or something. As he was on the Epstein files. That doesn't necessarily mean he did anything wrong. I'm not trying to spread any rumors, but I know that it's been something, I don't know, some drama has been going on there. I don't look into it because I don't like to get involved in people's drama, but I know people who were referenced in emails in the Epstein files. Eric Weinstein went to Jeffrey Epstein's house. Like, doesn't mean anything. Maybe it does. I don't know. I'm not going to look into it. But if that's why you're asking about Yoshabak, I don't know. I don't know who this is. Cream. Who is that? I'm looking this up. This name that you typed out. I think it's a name. Jiddu Krishnamurti, Indian spiritual figure, speaker and writer, adopted members of the Theosophical Society as a child. He's raised to fill the mantle of the prophesized world teacher, so like this Messiah, a role tasked with aiding humankind's spiritual evolution. In 1922, he began to suffer from painful seizure-like mystical episodes that would produce a lasting change in perception of reality. In 1929, he broke from the Theosophy movement and disbanded the Order of the Stars of the East, which was formed around him. Okay. He asserted that truth is a pathless land and advised against following any doctrine, discipline, teacher, guru, or authority, including himself. Good. I mean, I don't know if I'll say that's good, but don't idolize anyone or anything. But know that God is real and his will be done. Then you can never know exactly what his will is, but we should try and know, deduce it as best we can and align ourselves with it. But that's ultimately a personal journey for everyone. Nevertheless, during his life, he tried to share his insights in the teachings, urging for a state without conceptual deliberations and thought. This is why everybody who gets into like no thought, such righteousness was only possible through the practice of passive or choiceless awareness, which he called the essence of true meditation, in contrast to techniques. He gained wider recognition in the 1950s after Aldous Huxley had introduced him to the mainstream public. Okay. A few days before his death, he stated that nobody had understood what spirit or intelligence had passed through his body, and that after his death, no such body or intelligence would be found for many hundreds of years. His supporters working through nonprofit foundations in India. Okay. Like what was his teachings though? He was convinced he was chosen by an immense intelligence, which used his body to convey this message to mankind, but realized at his death that nobody had experienced this intelligence the way he had. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys. My wife tripped and got hurt, and my dog, one of my dogs, puked all over the floor. And I heard her scream, and I wanted to make sure she was okay. Oh man, spouse before basically anything else. Maybe the meaning of the word apprehensive comes from the idea that of the mind being on the alert. Yeah, makes sense. In effect, the mind is looking for things to grasp, but the cause is usually because danger is perceived. So people end up using it the way it is used. Just a guess. It's not a bad guess. Can you explain what engineering equation solver is? I don't know what engineering equation solver is. So I don't know if I can explain it. I've never heard of that before. Okay, so on his deathbed, this guy, I don't want to pronounce his name, Krishnamurti. I know I'm butchering that. At his deathbed, he realized or said that he realized that nobody had experienced this intelligence the way he had. Basically, nobody experienced God the way that he did. Everyone experiences God in an individual way, but I would imagine he had a particularly profound and unique experience. But so have others. An immense energy or intelligence went through his body, a consciousness which he called the otherness, manifested in the absence of thought. Well, that makes sense, actually. I mean, when you stop thinking, you can you're more likely to just be able to kind of feel or perceive God. Because if you're thinking, then you're kind of self-focused. You can't be really self-focused when you're trying to, focus on God. But I don't like when people say stop thinking. What is, you just need to feel the present, and that's it. Just be present and focus on the feelings of the present moment. And that's what you should try and do. You don't try and stop thinking. If you try and stop thinking, you can't. You're going to think about stopping thinking, which is counterproductive completely. It doesn't work. But if you focus on feeling the present moment and just the present moment, and you focus on your present feelings, like that is how you stop thinking, actually. It's about focus and feeling instead of thought. Okay. Once compared himself to Thomas Edison, suggesting he had blazed a trail for others to follow. Sounds like it, of some kind. The otherness is what he called God, or or was his name for God. Salon. I mean, it's kind of a description, but I guess everyone else would be the otherness compared to you, though. I don't really like. That's why it's not unique. Like, you are the otherness compared to me, and I am the otherness compared to you, because I'm separate from you. Like, the four primary perspectives that are the foundation of sentient singularity theory are about how do we orient in relationships with others, which is relevant to the whole topic of marriage and gender and sexuality that we're going to talk about in a future stream soon, upcoming stream. I'm also going to do probably a produced video about it, because I don't want to, like, it's one of those things where it's like you want to get it right. Even if I am thinking out loud in a live stream about it, I also want there to be something out there that is more just coherent and concise. So people will still take you out of context. They will. Can't, like, worry about that. If somebody's going to lie about you or take you out of context, lie to themselves about you or lie to others about you. If somebody lies to themselves about you, they'll lie to others about you too. But even if they're not lying to themselves about you, they can still lie to others about you. But if somebody's going to lie about you, to anyone, themselves or others, or both, then they're going to. You can't stop that. So, but I need to keep my. I got a text from my wife. Noah threw up twice. I'm letting the dogs out. Noah is one of our dogs. We have two dogs. One is a Belgian Malinois named Maya. That's my dog. She's a Belgian Malinois German Shepherd mix. And then Noah is a Cavapoo, which is kind of like my wife's dog. Here they are. Dogs. Let me see if I can put a picture of them. Here is our dogs. They are pretty funny, actually, but that's our dogs. This is Maya, my dog. This is Noah, my wife's dog. We love them, but I have definitely have had a profound change in my perspective on dogs the last few years. If you do, I will tell you this: if you don't have kids or dogs yet, have kids first, then get dogs. Don't get dogs and then have kids. It's not practice for having a kid. It's not at all, really, and it just is kind of confuses your mind and how you think about them too. Like when I first got Maya, I adopted her from the shelter, and I posted on Instagram. It's still up. I said I've adopted my first child, and I hate that post, but I leave it up to remind myself of how far I've come at this point. And but what happens is you have this pocket of your mind, this space that is for children. It's for cute things that I have to take care of that that are really, that space is reserved. It should be for children. But when you fill it with dogs before you have kids, it confuses how you relate to your dogs. And then you talk to your dogs the way that you talk to your kids, or then you talk to your kids the way that you talk to your dogs. And it frustrates you because you don't know you're like, how do it's just frustrating to hear yourself talk to your kids the way that you talk to your dogs, or to talk to your dogs the way that you talk to your kids when you have both dogs and kids. And but if you have kids first, you fill that spot with what it's meant for, and then you can have dogs, and then you'll have the dogs can go in the dog spot in your mind. And I think it would be it's just a much healthier thing. I grew up in a house where my parents had kids and then got dogs. But then I grew up with dogs and I was like, oh, dogs are fun. And then I got dogs before I had kids. And because a lot of people do. And it's actually like usually the opposite of how our parents did things, most people in my generation, I think. But it feels familiar, and it's actually not. And it delays so much, and it causes so much unnecessary stress in your life. I'm not saying don't get dogs, but I kind of tend to think that dogs should get a dog for a purpose at this point. I think like it should be partially a tool, not just a like a cute thing to take care of. Just get married and have a kid. That's what I would say about that. It's much more rewarding than getting a dog. And I love my dogs, but it's just the truth. Somebody who's experienced both. Why is photos not quitting? Okay, there we go. But yeah, it's funny because like you look at like some of the most popular dogs today, and you have some that are being bred to look like teddy bears and others that are being bred to look like children. You have Cavapoos, like our little poodle mix, or doodles of every type. It looks like a teddy bear. And then you have like French bulldogs, which they look like children, basically. Really ugly children, but children. And neither one of them are like very useful tools, at least. You could kind of like an alarm dog. Every dog could be an alarm dog, but not every dog can be a guard dog and or a service dog. People have these like Chihuahuas and it says service dog and they bring them on the airplane. That is not a service dog. That's not a service dog. That dog doesn't lead you anywhere. It doesn't grab anything for you. It's just not a service dog. I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to bring them on an airplane if they're well behaved. I'm just saying, be honest about what it is. It's your like replacement for a child. Is there any need for words at all other than communication with another? Probably not. Probably not. It depends on what you're trying to do, though. If you have a need to construct something that is abstract, then maybe, but probably not. I mean, the thing about language is that it's not just useful for communicating with others. It's also extremely useful for conceptual construction in your mind of abstract structures. So that can even be inventions. You need to hold be able to hold a representation of a concept in your mind, of multiple concepts, in order to put them together in a certain context to build something that doesn't yet exist. And I don't know if you can do that really without language. So it's interesting. It's kind of like yes and no is the answer to that question, because I don't think that you would even be able to humans would have even created knives without language, but they also wouldn't have probably created language if theoretically like there wasn't a bunch of other beings to communicate with or other people to communicate with. I mean, if you were the only person on Earth, you'd probably never make any technology, not even a knife, because you wouldn't have language and you probably wouldn't be able to conceptualize about things beyond you. I think it's kind of an all or nothing thing. Language is language and physical technology. Language is it's an informational technology, and so is invention. So, and they're both unique to humans, and I don't think that that's a coincidence. Like construction is not unique to humans, but invention, like constructing things, building tools that to build other tools, is unique to humans. Building tools to make things that don't exist is unique to humans, but using tools to make things that don't exist yet is not unique to humans. That is something that's actually very common and to many species on Earth, species of animals. I mean, bees, ants, mole rats, everything that makes a nest, birds. I have like these, I think they're called swallows. They are these little birds that make these mud nests, and they keep trying to make a nest above my front door, and they're probably the cutest birds I've ever seen in my life. So I always feel so bad because it's a male and female, and they're just trying to make a nest and have a family, and but it gets like it makes a huge mess, and they basically spray mud all over the wall, and then they just sit on it and poop, all over. So I don't really want that on my front door, but I feel bad kicking them out every time they try, and they try every year. They are adorable though. This is them. Yeah, this is them. They are like really a cute bird. And every time I walk out my front door, they start flying around my head because they're basically perched above me, and they freak out every time I go out there. And then they make a nest, and I spray it with those after they flew away. I don't want to I don't do it. There's no babies in that or eggs in that nest when I spray it. I just spray it so they find a different place to have the eggs. Total side tangent. So he just self-refuted. I got Calc 3 exam tomorrow, and I don't know anything on any theory on Calc 3 that can save me last minute. What is Calc 3? I would start with really understanding what calculus is in its essence, if you don't already know. And then maybe there's things there that can help you in instances where you'd have to deduce the answer without knowing an equation. So, or the specific equation. I don't know if that's good advice or not, but I don't know what Calc 3 is. But calculus is kind of the most important thing to understand there. So he just self-refuted. I do that sometimes. I think through things, and I have an assumption that's instinctual at the beginning of that process, and then by the end of thinking about that process, thinking through that process, I sometimes realize that I'm probably wrong, that my initial assumption was probably wrong. You should sometimes do that. I don't know if that's what you're referring to me doing earlier, but if I'm just being inconsistent, let me know. I like the dogs. Me too. I like the dogs, but we have a very humans in the West, people in the West have a very unhealthy relationship with dogs, and people in the East also have a very unhealthy relationship with dogs. They're like pests in the East, in a lot of cultures, not all of them, but in a lot of them, and they are like replacements for children in the West now. We used to have a much healthier relationship with dogs, which was a mutually beneficial partnership, where we've used them as tools more than companions, primarily as tools, secondarily as companions. And they did the same thing with us. Now we are each other's primarily each other's companions, which is not good. We should be making friends with people more. It's good to have a dog, sometimes, but I think that they're really good if you want for protecting your house, the right type of dog. Something about the CTMU. What about the CTMU? I think the CTMU is probably the closest framework to sentient singularity theory out there. Don't think I have found anything about in the CTMU that I would flat out say as wrong or label wrong. I've heard Chris Langan say things that I disagree with, but I have not heard anything about the CTMU, at least the overview of it, that is conflicting with sentient singularity theory. It's very aligned. Have a good night. Yep, have a good night. Peace. I have a German Shepherd, and she instinctively does not like those poodles. That's funny. My dog loves that poodle. She's always loved that poodle, which I'm grateful for, because now I got Maya when I was dating my now wife, and my now wife got Noah when she was dating me before we were even engaged, and so we lived separately. And you hope that your dogs get along if you are dating, and then you really hope your dogs are get along if you are going to get married. And they hit it off from the beginning. But a German Shepherd, though, is the shedding of a German Shepherd is insane. Here, this is actually like, look at this video. Follow me on Instagram if you don't already. This is my personal page. I also have a Theory of Everyone page. I went shooting over the weekend. It was awesome. I don't know if I can actually, here, let me see if I can sign in. No, I can't. Huh. How do I do this then? It's annoying that you can't see, you can't click on any images anymore on Instagram if you're not logged in. You can see someone's page, but it just keeps taking you to get you to log in or make an account. Let's see here. I'm just gonna send myself this video of or just hold it up. But here, look at this. This is crazy. I know it's total side tangent again, but it's okay. Here. Yeah, I'll put it. It's one spot. This keeps going. Doesn't make any sense. Don't understand it. You see that? That is one spot of hair in 2 seconds, and that she doesn't even have that much hair for a shepherd. She's got more type of German Shepherd type hair than Malinois, but like a short-haired German Shepherd. But still, she's a Malinois, but just with German Shepherd hair, basically. And it's insane. Even in Malinois, the amount that they shed is just nuts. Yeah. Okay. And let's go to the chat. I can't not believe that we rediscovered calculus before we came up with an equation for a statistical average. Calc 3 is 3xyz. Oh, dimensional integrals. Interesting. I didn't know that. That's why. Is that true, or you just deduced that? Or does it just mean your third year of calculus? That's kind of what I assumed, is that it just meant your third year of calculus, or third class of calculus. I cannot believe that. 1 through 10, add up 10 datas and divide by 10, right? That would be the average of 1 through 10. And my daughter today, uh, I went outside and was walking with her, and we were looking at people's like numbers on their mailboxes, and I was like, "What number is that?" And she was like, 4. I was like, "Wow, didn't even know that you knew that." She can count to 10, but I didn't know that she knew what the numbers look like. Um, I always wanted an Irish Wolfhound or a Deerhound. My first dog ever was an Irish Wolfhound, and which is the biggest dog in the world for those of you who don't know. Uh, he was 190 pounds, probably 200 pounds at his heaviest. He was the first dog that my family ever got, and he was so big that he could walk up to the table and take food off the table without going like jumping up on the table. Like his head was above the table. His head was probably this big. And my dad is 6'2", and he could grab. His name was Jedediah, is the dog, and my dad could take Jed or Jedediah's like paws and stand up completely straight and hold his paws completely above his head. He was enormous, but he was such a good dog. He was a very good guard dog actually, but he was also very like friendly dog to people who, you know, he wasn't protecting us from, or to even to other animals that he wasn't protecting us from. He was a very friendly dog. They're great dogs. They don't live very long, which is sad. In some ways that's a good thing, honestly. In some ways that's not a good thing. But you know, they live to be under 10. I think ours lived to be 11, which is really old for an Irish Wolfhound. But they're so cool. I have pictures of them somewhere. But yeah, that was my first dog. Great dog. If people will talk about like the space, you need the space. I've lived in an apartment with a Malinois, and it was fine. Like people who are like, you need the space for the dog. What's way more important is that the dog has a separate space that is for the dog, that is separate from your space. That's what's important. Living in an apartment with a dog sucks because there's so many other dogs around and they can hear each other and they all bark at each other. And you know, when the mailman walks by, is the dog always gonna see the mailman or the Amazon guy? Like that's what sucks about having a dog in an apartment. Not like, oh, they don't have room to run. If you're not doing much with a dog, it's not doing much. Like they rarely just go run by themselves in their day to day without you going and doing something with them, or like another dog going and, you know, playing with them. You know, they don't usually just run. Sometimes, but it's not an everyday occurrence. Like dogs don't run for fitness like people do. And running for fitness is like the only reason that people run every day consistently. Other than unless you're playing, which is with someone else, or you're running, you know, playing tag or something, playing soccer. Dogs don't think about their fitness, so they will only run if there's like a reason to run. Yes, I do. I like Symbol. We do have love our pets. They rule our lives. Don't let them rule your lives. But I will say that my pets, in some ways, they constrain your life, and that's not a bad thing. It's a trade-off, but don't let them rule your lives. Rule their lives, and that's what I would say. Rule your pets' lives. Math-wise, take an average. I don't know what you're referring to. Hello there. Do you like symbols? What about IXVTX? I don't know what that is. How much did he, how much did he weigh? Like 190 pounds. You cannot die on a living planet. I don't think. The planet is not living, I don't think. I think the universe is alive, but I don't think that the planet is a living thing, actually. The planet is our constructive perception of the information that is relevant to us within the universe that is alive, but I don't think the planet is alive. This is where a lot of like panpsychists go wrong, is they'll be like, you know, atomic consciousness, molecular consciousness, cellular consciousness, plant consciousness, animal consciousness, which that's already a mistake right there, because it's just a mistake. You're looking for nested holonic structures that are composed of other structures. You don't have plant mind and plant level consciousness and animal level consciousness. You have single cellular beings, and then you have multicellular beings that are each sentient singularities. And I don't even think a plant is actually a sentient being. I think the cells inside it are, but I think that at least most plants are what I call corporisms. They're like a corporation of cells. They're not like a person. I don't think they feel. I think the cells that make them up do feel, but I don't think that plants actually feel, or at least most plants. I think that almost all animals are sentient singularities. Most plants are probably pseudo-singularities, which is a corporism is a level of pseudo-singularity, versus an organism, or like I don't even know, maybe I would say like a true organism would be like someone. A plant is not a someone, I don't think. You can cut it in half and it just makes more when you cut it in half. It's probably not someone. And you can cut plants in half and make more plants like that. You can also do that to planaria worms. You cannot do that to earthworms. You cannot do that to people. That is evidence, I think, of them being sentient singularities. You can't cut a plant cell in half and make more plant cells just by cutting a plant cell in half. They do divide, but if you just cut a plant cell in half, you just killed it. But like a planaria worm is probably one of the few examples of an animal that is of what we would call an animal that is actually a pseudo singularity instead of a sentient singularity. It appears to be a singular being, but it's actually a corporation of cells with no stacked singular sentience on top of those cells. And you can cut it into probably endless pieces, or probably not endless pieces. We had this conversation earlier, but probably a lot of pieces, definitely a lot of pieces. I think the record is like over 200 pieces you can cut a planaria worm into, and it makes 200 more planaria worms. That's like a corporation being split apart, broken up, just making more corporations, multiple corporations out of one corporation. Can't do that with people or dogs. Or cells. The only three, but planets as well. Like you can break a planet in half and then just make 2 planets out of it. Like they think that Earth and the Moon. Some people, there's a theory that Earth and the Moon was formed by, 2 planets colliding. Like I think one was Earth and one was Theia, and then now you have their Earth 2.0 and the Moon. I don't know if that's true, but it seems like it's possible, and I don't think that the Earth is a sentient being. It's not a level. When panpsychists are like, then there's planetary consciousness and there's solar system consciousness, and there's it's more likely that the solar system is a sentient being than the planet. But I don't even think the solar system is a sentient being. I think the universe is, but not the planets or even the stars inside. Stars are much more likely to be sentient than planets, but I don't think that they're sentient either. I think they're also a corporism, a star. I don't even think a planet is a corporism. I think it's just a bunch of interacting sentient beings that we are perceiving as a planet, as what we call in the structure that we call a planet. Something dimensional differences remind me of phase changers. The only three forms that two links can combine is V, T, and X. Interesting. I'm thinking that through right now by like the two lines can form is V, T, and X. Yeah, that's true. That seems true. I can't think of another form. You can cut magnets in half too. Yeah, you can. I don't think magnets are sentient beings. Mitosis and replication. Mitosis is not you cutting it in half, though. It's a natural division, but it's different. It's not, if you cut a cell in half, it's gonna die, but that doesn't mean it can't replicate through its own processes of, mitosis. I think it's mitosis. I was the bio major my freshman year of college, and I dropped it, like I've said before on here, because I was disheartened with the field. I still study zoology naturally on my own. I always have and always will, but it's my old bio book. That is called a Chinese water dragon. That lizard on the front. I had one as a kid as a pet. Those are baby Chinese water dragons. I wonder why they're being like used as the mascot of the bio book. But yeah, there's this whole thing is like there's a bunch of sections here on mitosis. What's the difference between mitosis and mitosis versus meiosis? Mitosis produces two genetically identical diploids, somatic cells for growth repair, while meiosis produces four genetically unique haploid gametes, sperm and egg, for sexual reproduction. Mitosis involves one division, whereas meiosis involves two divisions. Interesting that it's four. I don't remember this. It's been literally about 20 years almost 20 years since I was in took a bio class. I was 2010 when I was in biology. So that is crazy that's it's four, and it's four separate. I need to look more into that, but that makes sense with sentient singularity theory. With the four primary perspectives being like inevitable, you need all four of them, and all four of them are simultaneously perceived: inside, outside, separate, and oneness. They are co-defining. Inside means separate and oneness. Outside means separate from oneness, etc. Within the context of nested sentient beings, they are those concepts are co-defining. Right here. Go to sentientsingularity.com and go to models. Right here. I try and include the most like up-to-date and defined models at the top, and then as you go down, you kind of start to encounter more of my working models that are not like part of sentient singularity theory. Really, they're just like me exploring like different patterns and symmetries that I find. But these are part of sentient singularity theory. All of these 8 definitely are. These are not exactly, but they're kind of like implied. This one is part of it, but these are kind of implied. But this one, these 4, and these 4 are parts of sentient singularity theory. This is actually just this. It's just a different way to represent it. But there's really like, you could say there's like 8 models in sentient singularity theory. and they build on each other. So this, you get this one to this one, and this one builds to this one. Well, these two combined builds to this one. These two combined build to this one. And which this is just another way of looking at like this. It's like hadron is an assembly of quarks. Hadron is an assembly of quarks. An atom is an assembly of hadrons. An atom is an assembly of hadrons, etc. And then once you reach here, it repeats. That's that animated this thing. That this is exactly that. So you see singularity, which is, I am. And then you're basically, this is an equation that's testing about whether or not something that is a division, which we're just talking about meiosis and mitosis, which is relevant. Basically, the universe, or not the universe, existence itself, which I'm saying is separate from the universe, which existence itself is God. The universe is creation. Sentient existence is God. The sentient universe is sentient creation. It's the second being to exist and the first to be created by God. So, but there's a mathematical constraint to it, because you have to fit when God divides his being, he has to be able to fit the part that he splits off from himself, which is just a piece of will, actually, which is, the ability to make choices and to have desire. And he splits that off, which is sentience, really, from himself. And that has to fit inside of what is left over, which means like, if you have one and you balloon, basically, and you cut it and then reform two balloons from it, you need one of those balloons to be able to fit inside the other balloon. And you do that by basically dividing it, whereas you have one, where part of the division, one partition is 1/3 of the whole, and then the other part of the whole that is partitioned is and is left over after the partition is 2/3, and 1/3 is smaller than 2/3, and so therefore it fits inside, and you get a stable foundation to build on, and then it just goes into this, and then it repeats again once it reaches the end, and that process just continues forever. I don't think you'd be able to like even construct a model like that if there wasn't a deducible, there would be no information without, that there is no information that is not deducible if you have the context. Context is information. If you have the context necessary, then you will be able to deduce information from it. That implies there's a certain like inevitability built into causality that just is responsible for us being able to do anything, make any prediction, construct language, take actions that are meaningful, seek goals. I mean, anything. And that causality, that determinism that is built into causality, or that I guess, determinism that is built into causality is responsible for why there probably being an actually deducible correct term for the theory of everything. And it's interesting, like there's so much context in that we are unaware of, but there's also in every system. So like, why do we use some words like apprehensive in a way that doesn't match the etymology? It's like there's context that is out there that is not included in the etymology that is responsible for that word's the meaning of that word or for our use of that word changing. The problem is that when that context disappears, which it's always going to be social context or technological context, those things are usually finite. They are limited. Because otherwise they'd be ever present, and you'd start with them anyways. So you wouldn't have a change. But if you have a change in how we use a word, it's because there's some type of new context that it's probably social and technological, which is they're interconnected, that have led to changing the context in which we would use the word. But the issue is that context is usually short-lived. It's not usually permanent. Otherwise, it would have already been there from the start. But the fact that it is new implies that it's probably not permanent. And so when that context disappears, now we have no idea what it means, because now we're going to use it the way that we were using it prior, but not the way that it was etymologically, not with the meaning that is deducible from its etymological construction, which is the real reason the word was created in the first place, is going to align with etymology. It's a permanent context. It's the permanent context of a definition, of the definition of words. That's why it's the correct one. I think that, I see like that we're using the term AI agents, and I hate that we're doing that, because it's going to change how it basically is going to destroy the definition of agency, and then we'll have no word for agency anymore that people will understand. And if you have no concept of agency, you probably lose some agency, and or at least you lose the concept along with the concept of agency. You lose the concept of accountability, and of responsibility. It's a very bad road, because you can't break a link in a chain without it impacting other chains, other links in the chain. If it's all built on, if every link is built on previous links, but you break this over here, this is going to become very unstable and probably eventually decoherent, fall apart as well. Makes me worried about CRISPR and using CRISPR to edit DNA. I worry that we're destroying context by you're basically altering a blockchain from a perspective that is not that's different from the rest of the context that constructed the blockchain in the first place, and even what constructed the method of construction of the blockchain. It's really not good, and I think that we're going to have some serious issues with when people start testing CRISPR at more often. I know they edited, in China, they edited 2 girls to try and make them immune to HIV, and then as a byproduct, they think that they actually probably boosted their IQ. But then I think that they also tested. They're running tests on them, obviously, and I think they saw a lot of abnormalities forming. But it's very. It did. Well, last time I checked, that the research was not readily available because I think the guy who did it went to jail. And the guy who edited the embryos with CRISPR, I think he might still be in prison in China. So I don't know, but you're changing context, and that's what we do with when we change the definition of a word. It's like gender. It's gender has a definition, and that is permanent, and is also universally applicable and relevant. But we now don't even understand what it means, because we changed it because of social context, where we were trying to, um, there's a finite social movement that added context that caused us to change the definition of the word gender, the term gender. People will say, like, is gender and sex the same thing? Biological sex is just the multicellular level of the manifestation of gender. Gender appears on every level of sentience in the cosmos. Even this one, protons and neutrons are the manifestation of gender on the hadronic scale. On an organism scale, it's male and female. But on a hadronic scale, it's protons and neutrons. Protons are the masculine, and neutrons are the feminine. It's the active and reactive. Just look at protons and neutrons. Like, think about what they are. One of them is charged, meaning it's animated. It's like self-animated, but the other is a neutron takes it adopts the charge of that is around. It's not chargeless. It's charge dependent. So if it can be negatively charged or positively charged depending on what it is interacting with, but it's not chargeless. It's charge dependent. It's a better way of putting it. But that's the manifestation of gender on the hadronic scale. Gender is our metaphysics, our screwed up metaphysics also like makes it so we can't understand gender, because we don't think of masculine and feminine archetypes or patterns or roles is probably the best way of putting it, on the atomic scale. But it is there, and if you think that it's only on the biological level, then yeah, you're actually going to have the definition disappear. So, but like I said, there's no true synonyms. Gender is not sex, but sex is a level of gender, like male and female. I don't even know if that's the best definition for sex is like male and female. It's like the act between males and females that is probably the best definition, just because it's specific. It's such a specific word to biological male and female. It's not like it's applicable on the hadronic scale, the term sex. Like, we don't think of the sex of a hadron. Think of but the gender of a hadron makes a lot of sense, actually. But we probably say sex when we talk about males versus females because of the act between them. This is my guess, is that that's the context that gave rise to the term. Because gender already existed. Why would you need to create the term sex to kind of as a placeholder for the term gender? I'm looking it up. What came first? Which definition came first? What came first, the sex or the sex? The sex or the sexes in language. That's what I want to know. I don't even know how to ask that question to Google. Sex definition. Either of the two main categories, male or female, into which humans and most other living things are divided on the basis of their reproductive functions. Let's see, where's the etymology? originates from the Latin sexus, meaning a sex state of being either male or female. It's likely derived from the secere, to cut or divide, implying a division of humanity into two categories. The modern use of for sexual intercourse is a late 19th century development. I told you it was new. The term sexus belongs to a family of words relating to sectus, gender, secere, to cut. Okay, late 14th century. What about gender etymology? Gender. 1300 is kind, sort, or class. From the Pi root, gene, give birth, beget, which derives from the procreation of familial or tribal groups. From Old French, gender, meaning kind, species, character. Gender. From stem of Latin genus, genitive, or generis, race, stock, kind, family, rank, order, species, also male or female. Interesting. Okay. It seems like it arose around the same time as like the use of the term sex, the sexes, not sex the act. That's new. Apparently. That's 19th century, but 14th century gender, 14th century also around is like the sexes. Okay, one focuses on the biological distinctions, one focuses on the kind of social distinctions. So gender is applied to the social distinctions more, even historically, and then sex is focused on the biological distinctions. Okay, interesting. Those two things though are the issue is that those two things are completely interconnected. Like they're not. You can't actually you can't actually separate those two things the way that we've tried to. As somebody who's like, you know, had children and is married, I can absolutely tell you um, there are some things that you just can't get around. That doesn't mean you can't, you know, adapt and do things uh, differently than others expect it, but it doesn't. But there are constraints to how you socially must behave because of the biological realities of the embodiment and union and replication of humans. Okay, interesting. Where am I? Where are you? I don't know. I don't think that you can answer that question without more context, actually, about what your goal is with the question. Um, where am I? Earth, the United States, maybe. I don't know. Maybe you're in Europe, um, North America, South America, Texas. It just depends. It's funny. My parents used to like ask me when I was a kid. They would try and like teach me where I lived, and they'd be like, you know, where do you live? They want me to say Tucson, Arizona, but I would always say America, and because I like the way that it sounded. But both of them are correct. Where was I? I was in America, and I was in Tucson, Arizona. The question, both of them are correct answer, but the question is useless without additional context, and that additional context would be the goal of the question. Like, why are you asking? I worry about the Christ Kessler syndrome with all our satellites up there. Is that where one breaks apart and breaks others apart and breaks others apart? Honestly, humanity would probably be better off. I don't think it's Kessler syndrome. It's the Kessler syndrome, I was going to say. It's not Kessler, it's Kessler. A theoretical scenario where the density of space debris in low Earth orbit becomes so high that collisions cause chain reactions, creating exponentially more debris and rendering orbits unusable. Yeah, it certainly is like something that just it would add complications, additional complexity to utilizing orbit. But I don't think that we'll ever like not use orbit at all. Like they can move things around in orbit. They can they can move things out of the way. Eventually we'll have satellites with arms that can move things out of the way. Maybe eventually every satellite will have arms, so they can all move each other the way that they need to and move things the way that they need to. I'm not worried about it. Not long term. German says that dear die das. I am he, as you are he, as you are we, and we are all together. Spiritual awakening is the toe. Discovering the true toe, which is a theory of EveryOne, will lead to a spiritual awakening. But what is a spiritual awakening? It's a moral and it's ultimately a moral shift. That's what it almost really is. Like people will talk about a spiritual awakening a lot, and then they never even change their goals about like what they want in life afterwards, which makes me usually doubt that they actually had a spiritual awakening. Like if there is a true definition of what that would be, or a relevant if that means anything important, then it would be a moral awakening or moral epiphany of some kind. That doesn't mean everything about your opinions would change. It just means like you would understand some of them and some of them would change. And it doesn't mean that you would all of a sudden be a saint. It just means like you would have a much better understanding of what is right and wrong. It doesn't mean you would stop doing things that you would stop sinning. It means that you would now know it was a sin. And it doesn't mean that you would, you couldn't do mitzvahs or good deeds before, having a spiritual awakening. It just means like now you'll know why they were, and you'll know why certain things are that you didn't think were good. I used to think, I told you we're going to do a stream on sex and marriage, but I used to think that it was the right thing to do was to have sex with somebody before you got married to them, because like you should basically like test drive the car before you buy it type of thing. I thought that was just the responsible, like logical thing to do. And it doesn't mean like I thought you should take advantage of people. It just means like you shouldn't wait till marriage to like have your first kiss or like have sex for the first time. I actually think I was totally wrong now. After deducing Sentient Singularity Theory and realizing God, not without even reading any scripture, I think it is deducible to understand why I was wrong, and why actually like the religious perspective, the traditional orthodox ideal is actually the ideal. You should wait for, you shouldn't even have a kiss before your wedding. You don't need to be like, you don't need practice before you get married. You can practice all you want once you get married. everything, and you can practice without uh, um, hurting anyone. Like as at least like uh, if you don't get married and you do intimate acts with people like that, it will lead to somebody getting hurt. If you don't get married, it absolutely will. Always. Nobody breaks up and it's like, you know what? I feel like this was just a great thing, and thank you. This was literally such a wonderful experience, and it was just nothing but like growth and 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 meaning. And now on to the next one. And you know, we took good care of each other. We were really good to each other. No, everybody breaks up because like somebody's hurt. That's why people break up. And when people say we fell out of love, that's a stupid statement. Like it's an incoherent statement. Love is not something that you feel. It's something that um, for others. Love is something that you can feel from others. You can feel loved by others when others love you, but their loving you is an action. So you can feel loved when someone is loving you, which is an act. Always, whenever you're doing good things for somebody, that is loving them. But yeah, it's impossible to actually do that outside of marriage because you're not committed. And if you're not committed, then you're in it for your own sake, and that's it. And that means you don't date somebody and get a girlfriend or a boyfriend because you think it's good for them to have a boyfriend or girlfriend, but you can marry somebody because you think that it's good for us to not be alone. And that is an act of love because you're committing to them even when it seems inconvenient in the moment, even when you like I've said on here before, my wedding was live streamed. It's on here. It's on the channel. If you ever want to watch it, you can go watch my wedding. It's just click on the videos, search wedding. But there's also streams my wife and I did about marriage a couple times. And in my vows, and you can see me say them to my wife on our wedding day, I said, I promise to love you even in the very, very rare moments that I don't like you. Because you can dislike somebody and you can still love them, which just means that love is not just, we use it today to mean like really, really like. It's like a lot, a lot. And that there's no need for that term. You could just say, I really like that person. Okay. That's about you. I really love that person. You've now changed the word love to be about me and my feelings. Just like it's literally now you've turned it into a synonym for love, for like, but you don't need it. It's an unnecessary word, and you've lost a word that you kind of needed to have, which is envelops and contains also like moral implications and actions for the sake of others and things like that just are not found if love just means really, really like. We added, and here's why I think this happened, and this is just a theory, and again, remember I said we add social and technological context that changes the definition of words temporarily in society and contrasts it with the intent of its original construction. And so what I think happened is that we started writing books, and those books started being movies. And like as soon as we started writing books and stories, authors needed a way to show commitment between two people in a like true commitment between two people, or to communicate commitment between two people that but they could only do it in a finite like picture. Even when you read a book, that book takes place over the span of a year. If it's a long story, maybe it's even a few days. It's a book about a set of events that took place over a few days. Maybe it's a book about a set of events that took place over a few years. Usually a book is not about a set of events that took place over a lifetime. And if it is, it's missing the lifetime of little things that matter. And so they needed a way to communicate that someone really was committed to someone else. And so they use the word love, because to love someone is to be committed to them. But to love, to feel love, the way that we use it today, which is incoherent, to it, like if I said I love you, that doesn't mean anything. It just means something in the context of what we expect of it now because of movies and books, honestly. But like, you never needed to say I love you to your spouse for them to know it. If you're helping them every day and you're taking care of them every day and you're respecting them every day, even when you are frustrated with them, and you are kind to them, even in the very, very rare moments that you don't like them, and you stay committed to them throughout that, you never need to say I love you. They will feel loved because you are loving them. But if you are writing a book or making a movie, and you need to, in a very finite amount of time, communicate that someone is committed to somebody, you write love. And it changed the definition, and it destroyed the definition. It actually destroyed the definition. That's why I think, like, if you look at the PR ridiculousness that was like the divorce statement of like, what was his name? Bill Gates. What was his name? So Bill and Melinda Gates, when they got divorced, I remember like they each issued like the same statement, I think, or very similar statements. And it was just like, we've just grown out of love. We no longer are in love, or we fell out of love, but we are very good friends, and this and this. It's like, no, you guys stopped loving each other, actually. But like, in terms of the actions that you took for each other, that's what happened. At least one of you. I don't know who, and it doesn't matter because it's not my business. And it doesn't matter what those actions were that stopped. But someone stopped loving somebody, meaning like they weren't doing loving actions anymore. They stopped being committed, which is the end of that is not an act of love. When people are like, sometimes if you love something, you have to let it go. That only works if you catch lizards, okay, or like bugs. I caught a ladybug the other day, and I actually, is a better act of love. There was a fly that flew into my house yesterday, and I hit it with a bug zapper, like the electric racket, and then I dumped it outside. I opened the door and dumped it outside, and then it hit the ground, and then it started spinning around, and then it got back up, and it started walking around, and then it flew away. And I looked at my wife, and I was like, it was still alive. It just flew, and it flew away. But I saw it spinning around and on the ground on its back, and when I first dumped it, and I thought about just stepping on it afterwards, and I was like, no, if you're gonna make it, I'm gonna let you make it. Like, there's no reason for me to hurt you at this point, other than my own like satisfaction of, accomplishing killing the fly. And I literally, like, that was an act of love towards that fly, even though I don't really like that fly. And that is the only moments where, like, if you love something, you let it go. You don't like do that with people, like in marriage. People just say that as an excuse. There's no falling out of love. Love is a choice. It is a choice. It is not a feeling that you don't have control over. My daughter is 2 years old. The terrible twos are a real thing, and she has just discovered the word no, which really she thinks right now just means like you don't like it. She doesn't realize that it means like, no, I'm not doing that. She thinks it means like, I don't want to do that. So I'm like, Juliana, do this. She's like, no, Dada. And here, I'll show you a video actually from yesterday. I told her to go to bed. She was like, no, Dada, no bedtime. And but she knows that we're gonna make her go to bed. Like, she's expressing that she doesn't like it. It's like, it's interesting to see her like develop language. Because again, she has to like construct the context, the definition through the context, and She doesn't realize that no doesn't mean like I'm not doing that. It just means like to her, I don't like what's happening or whatever you're proposing. Um, where is this video of this little here?
No bedtime. Sleep at no bedtime.
She's just saying that she doesn't want to go to bed.
Sleeping? No. No sleeping. But it's bedtime. No bedtime.
Every other word out of a toddler's mouth is no as soon as they discover the word. But what's funny is that when she was 1, every other word that she said was yeah. So it's flipped now, and now it's every other word is no. And you need to have you can only, no is a responsive, reactive term. It's a reactive concept, whereas like yeah is an active concept. It's like, I want that. I want to do that. Yes, we're doing that, versus no is like, we're not doing that. Which is, it's like it requires the concept of doing that to be able to have the term that represents, or even have the concept of not doing that. And so I think it's almost inevitable that children's linguistic development goes, first they learn yes, then they learn no. They don't ever learn no and then yes, because I don't think it's possible. I think they must learn yes and then learn no, like just logically. This is why it's so amazing to see in a child. Like, you do not get this just if you have a French bulldog. Okay, you don't get to learn all these amazing things about language development and it's just not the same thing. But it's not nearly as interesting. Your children are the most fascinating thing in the world to you if you're their parent, because you see their entire life for years is just like a rapid fire succession of novelty and learning, whereas that's just not your experience as a parent. It is, it's not your experience as an adult. It is your experience as a parent, but it does add to you, like, you're learning. You start learning all the time once you watch your kids learning all the time. I said on here before, I think Kurt Scheinmungel was interviewing Eric Weinstein, and he asked him about being a parent, and Eric Weinstein said, your children are simultaneously the most interesting thing in the world to you and the most boring thing in the world to everyone else, because everybody else is like, yeah, everybody has kids. It's not that interesting. But when you're their parent and you see what they were like yesterday, and now you see what they're like today, and you see that they just did something for the first time, and you tell somebody about it, they're like, yeah, everybody does that at some point for the first time. But you have a different perspective and a different context where, like, they hadn't done that yet. This person that you love so much, otherwise they wouldn't even be alive, because it takes acts of love to keep them alive. And you also instinctually have, like, lots of emotions for, is changing every single day. That's a fascinating thing to see, but you don't see that about other people's kids. You're just like, yeah, everybody's kids do that. Like, yeah, they do. Everybody's kids probably learns yes before they learn no, but it's a fascinating thing to see it for yourself. Just is. Give us creed to believe that the night is blessed. Give us trust in the night. Please get back to me. Okay, what did you ask? Sorry. Calling up the host. Okay, Holy Ghost. Don't get lost. Jesus Christ. Okay. Find the raw key. I don't know what you're saying. I don't understand what you're trying to say to me. I don't know how to pronounce your handle. I don't want to try because I know I'll butcher it. Okay. Give us a color, 100 hues, a Rick Mandela for me and you. People are doing like uh saying some poetry or something in the chat, and it might be between you guys, and I'm missing the context. But if you're expecting me to understand some of this, I don't. Uh, yeah, there's lots of stuff going on that I being commented that I don't understand. Hierarchy, mono, dual, triune, trinity. So equal to this topo set. The two straight lines are equal to the VTX topo set. 100,000 years for a photon to reach the surface of the sun, and about 8 minutes or so for that photon to reach your eyeball. Yeah. Isn't it amazing that they supposedly went to the moon again, like last week? I didn't know that that was happening until the day before it happened. And I follow aerospace. That's really weird. Like that, I'm kind of shocked. Like I watch videos about planes and aerospace technology probably every day, and it's like my go-to, like going to sleep routine if I can't sleep, is like put on a documentary about the development of the F-15 or like the Mercury rocket, and my wife puts up with it, but I didn't know we were even trying to go to the moon until like the day before they launched, which is really weird. Whoever is like in charge of the PR at NASA failed. I feel like everybody found out like after the fact. Maybe it's because we had already, gone before, and it's just not interesting to people until they see it happening again. But I mean, it is kind of like interesting. Yeah, they're not landing on the moon, which is really like the big difference. But I think that would be way more interesting to people. But I didn't even know we were gonna fly around it. It's not that much of an accomplishment, actually. Like I know it's like further than anyone's ever gone before. You're doing the exact same thing that people have done before. If you do believe that we went, I think we went. But like, even if you do think we went, you're going like what 1% further than anyone else. But you're taking the same action. You're just sitting in a Coke can that's you know slingshotting around, and has a predestined trajectory. You're not really doing anything more than people who had gone shorter distances than you. Not taking away from it, like it's still cool, but it's not. I kind of get why it wasn't that interesting until like people actually like saw it, and it's still not nearly as interesting as if people went back to the moon, because none of us, unless you're quite a bit older than me, and you were at least like, I don't know, probably at least like 5 or 10 years old, probably 10 years old when we went in 1969. So you must have been born in 1959. That's how old I think my mom was born in 1959. Or my dad was born in 57, something like that. So my parents were like they're like the youngest people that could have possibly maybe understood the magnitude of like us landing on the moon and saw it when it happened. But I don't know, how they view it in their memory. But I mean, if you're 10 years old, then it's probably seems pretty cool. If you're 5 years old, you don't understand. Like, and yeah, like, but if you're not landing on it, you're not doing anything actually that we've never seen in our lifetime. We've seen people go into orbit, and orbit is orbit around the moon, orbit around the Earth. You're doing the same thing. But I will say this, like, it's the ship that they took is not nearly as cool as the ship that they took in the 60s and 70s. Like that, the Saturn V was way cooler than the Artemis rocket. And I'm pretty sure that the toilet worked in the Saturn V, and it's apparently not working very well in the Artemis. That sucks. Really sucks. Like, you have basically like sharing a public bathroom with people in zero gravity, and in a sealed room that you can't open the windows for like a week, where nobody can even take a shower. Does not sound fun. Actually, it sounds like it's maybe fun if you can get over the nausea, like for a couple days, and then it would be. But it would probably take you a couple days to get over the nausea, and by then it's probably like not actually as pleasant as it seems. When we look at it, we're like, people are floating. That seems so fun. It's like, you're not showering. Nobody's showering. And you're in a sealed little like closet, basically, with no real air circulation for days to months. No, thanks. I would go to the moon if they like made a base on the moon. You could go vacation on the moon for a week. I would do that. But I wouldn't want to just go into orbit for the sake of going into orbit, or ever go to Mars. That sounds awful. That literally sounds awful. I don't think we'll ever see anybody go to Mars in our lifetime, unless Eric Weinstein's geometric unity gets implemented and we start bypassing the constraint of space-time. Then people will go all kinds of places. But it's at that point, it's like, why go to Mars? Just go to like the Gobi Desert. It's a way more interesting than Mars. Like, at least there's like scorpions in the Gobi Desert and snakes and camels, but there's none of that on Mars. I am research in infotech. Dude, so weird, so fun. Are you crazy? You didn't know? Oh my God, this freaking funny man. Yeah, I didn't know we were going to the moon until the day before. And I literally watch aerospace videos on YouTube every day. That's crazy weird. I mean, every single administration that I can remember in my lifetime. I remember when Bill Clinton was president. I remember when George W. Bush became president. And I remember when Obama became president. And I remember when Trump became president, and then Biden, and then Trump again. And every single one of them has had NASA make announcements about plans to go back to the moon. Every single administration, at the beginning of every single administration. This is the closest that we've come in any administration in my life. And the technology that they're using to do it seems like it's gone backwards. I mean, it definitely has. In some ways, not SpaceX, but like definitely the Artemis rocket. It's just like reusing some rockets that were developed in like the 70s and 60s, but in a less elegant implementation. I'm pretty sure they just took like parts from a bunch of, different preceding rocket designs, which is always what you do to some degree, but it's like, it looks like you just removed the space shuttle and then you just took the boosters and the tank and everything, and you just like put a little tiny capsule that's the size of the one from the moon, from the first moon missions on top. It just doesn't seem nearly as, I don't know, just committed. It's not as impressive. It's just not. I'm not surprised we waited so long at all. We just, when people are like, we lost the technology. That doesn't make any sense. That's evidence that we never went. I mean, it's possible we never went. I wasn't there, but I will say it definitely makes sense we lost the technology. Like, people made the SR-71 Blackbird with slide rules, and we don't have any planes that go that fast anymore. That are manned. I think that was probably the fastest manned plane that will ever fly. Isn't that sad? We'll probably never have a manned plane that flies faster than the SR-71 because there's no need. They're making an SR-72 right now, apparently, allegedly, and it's unmanned. It's going to go really fast, but it's unmanned. It's like way less cool because it's the human doing the thing that is cool. It's not just it going. Us making something that goes faster than people. Yeah, computers go faster than people. Your calculator goes faster than people. A bow and arrow goes faster than people. A car goes faster than people. But if you're not, if the thing isn't making people do something that people could not do with previously, then it's not. Things have always been able to do things that people can't, but that doesn't matter unless they are. It's the thing is like allowing for people to do things that people could not previously do. So it's like we've been to Mars, we've launched things to Mars that are kind of cool, like nuclear powered rovers, and that's cool. It's like a remote control car though. Like I have one of those. I had one. My neighbors have one of those. They put their kids in it. Like the new like cars for kids. It's like replacing the stroller. As the dad walks behind the car, this remote control car that the kid sits in, and he just like has like a little Xbox controller and can like push him around automatically. And but it's like that's cool because there's a kid in it. But like if there's no kid in it, then it's like not. Like if cars were only RC cars and there were no cars that people actually sat in, it was just like people racing cars that nobody was in, which that does exist. Like there are RC car races there are some RC cars that go I think multiple hundreds of miles an hour, and just in a circle. But it's not widely known because it's a very niche interest, because it's not about everyone. It's not about people. It's about like some niche, autism obsession. And I say that respectfully as somebody who is like obsessed with many things, has autistic obsession with many different topics and hobbies. Probably more niche than RC cars, much more niche than RC cars. Like snakes. Like way more people probably like RC cars than snakes. I am greenhorns. I did not know that you are considered to be in orbit around Jupiter if you are within its high radius. We're all in orbit right now. We're all in orbit around the sun. We're in orbit. We're moving at thousands and thousands and thousands of miles an hour. I think the Earth spins at like over 1,000 miles an hour. And how fast it's moving in relation to the sun, I have no idea, but probably hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. It's not, orbit is useful, but it's not something that we haven't or aren't doing. We actually are doing. Go land on the moon. That's kind of cool. For like a week. When people are like, why didn't we keep going back? It's like, how long would you want a vacation on the moon? I'd want probably ideally 2 days on the moon. Maybe 3. Like, what would you be able to do after that? Not much. Like, there's not much more to see. I think you've seen it all. You've done it all after like three days. If it's just for the sake of experiencing the moon, it's not for the sake of like, I don't know, you're looking for water. But then again, once you find it, you found it. And before you found it, you haven't found it. So it's not like there's that much to do up there. It makes perfect sense that we waited. We haven't gone back yet. I do not have to leave Earth's surface at all. I don't need to leave Earth's surface at all either. I used to be like really emotional when I would see like rocket launches, and I would be like really inspired by NASA and stuff. And I still think we went to the moon, and I still think it's cool. I also don't think it's necessary though, for humanity at all. Like it'd be like, it's about as necessary, maybe less. It's probably less necessary than vacationing in Tahiti. And I don't know how necessary that is. Like, if you really want to talk about like uncharted territory, it's like that would be way more interesting is like North Sentinel Island, where those like supposed, almost, I don't want to say uncontacted, but disconnected and tribes are of very like primitive living humans that are in the Stone Age. They're not even in the like Neolithic farming era. Like they are in the Stone Age. And I always wonder about like that, the morality of it. It's illegal to go there. It's like those are people. Like that is a place with people. And yeah, like nobody's stopping them from leaving, but people are stopping other people from going. It's like against the First Amendment. It's like against freedom of association. It's kind of like you're treating them as if it's a like a protected wilderness area, and that they're like animals. To forbid other people from going there is, it's like you're treating them like animals more than you are treating them like humans. Yeah, is it going to be shocking for people to go there? Yes, but like they're still people. Like they have the right to be shocked, you know. But it is odd that there are people literally living in the Stone Age on this planet right now, in the Stone Age, and then there are people right now who are on their way back from the moon. That's wild. And you're watching this like from all over the world, watching, guys stream way too late into the night on a machine that took countless people and inventions to put together, generations and generations. And is, over like an invisible information network that is all everywhere. You could be on North Sentinel Island and you could send an email or make a phone call to the people on the moon, because if you had Starlink, that's wild, or satellite phone or something. And they are living in the Stone Age. I don't know how I feel about it. I kind of feel like it's wrong to forbid people from going to North Sentinel Island. Like I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing. Like if enough people went to North Sentinel Island, they would stop shooting us with arrows. They'd be like, okay, there's actually like a lot of people out there, and there's, there's a lot going on that we didn't know about, and that, maybe it's beneficial for us to talk to them instead of to shoot them with bows and arrows. But if you forbid people from going, and the few people that go is so few that it's like an enormous shock every time, and to the point where it's not even like a human interaction almost. It's like a alien invasion to them, then yeah, they're going to shoot you with bows and arrows. If aliens landed outside your house right now, you would not be like thrilled about it. Not at first. They'd have to like show you, you'd have to develop a beneficial and like cooperative, positive relationship first before you're like chill with the aliens that are, right there. I'm a fisherman, but my net is broken. Intellectual dark web. I've been around. Yo, my G. Tyler, commune with me. I don't know what you are trying to commune with me. All that goes around comes around. I don't know. God's will be done. That's what I will say. I'm much more sure of that statement than all that goes around comes around. But time and space, do you have some or do you want some? For Christ's sake, try to get my gist. Trying to. I'm failing. I'm gonna be honest. I would like some time and space, actually. I would like more time and more space. But not for the sake of just having more time and space, but because I want to use that time and space. Law of the sea, buy and sell, offer and demand, capital market. Yeah, I'm not picking up what you're putting down, man. You're speaking past me. Anyways, please hit the like button. And we're going to wrap up pretty soon. Comment any final questions that you have. I realize we went into like a bunch of different things, but I mean, I will just say that the fact that language is even possible is evidence that the name of the theory of everything is fixed, or of the most fundamental theory that could be communicated or described is fixed. It is not something that we decide on. It is something that we discover or really deduce. And it is the first step in actually, the first step is actually figuring out what you're looking for, which is we're looking for a theory of every one. The truest thing that we know is that I know is that I am. The truest thing that you know is that you are. That's true for everyone. It's what I call a oh man, what, it's not super literal. It's oh my gosh. If you know the term that I use, let me know. I'm having a brain fart. It's a um super super subjective truth. That's what it is. It's a super subjective truth. It's a truth that is subjectively true to everyone universally. That's a super subjective truth, and it's a universal but also subjective, like personal truth, and it's like foundational and personal and universal. It's universal and personal and foundational and uh, and it, subjective. It's like, or because I don't want to say objective. I don't think that that's the right term. We use that term to mean like something that's true to everyone, but I don't think that that's the right term to use for something that's true to everyone, like, or at least fundamentally true to everyone. What's fundamentally true to everyone is are things that are super subjectively true, not things that are objectively true. Things that are objectively true are things that are circumstantially true to everyone who is involved in a specific circumstance, given a certain presupposition and question or goal. But it's very, very contextually dependent. And that context is not fundamental at all. It's like very, very much not fundamental context. But what is super subjectively true is something that is subjectively but universally true to everyone. We don't have the term. Dave Farina would say, "Oh, he's making up words." No, I'm constructing a new one out of words that already exist, which is exactly how every word has been created after the word I. So, yeah, interesting. I'm now thinking about like how you get me from I. It's like two I's usually makes an E sound. I don't know if that's relevant, but it might be. Where is my weeds? I've been wondering this whole time whether or not you have some weeds. And I don't know if you do or not, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'm looking for my dead best friend. I packed this bowl for two. I want to smoke it with you. Yeah. Okay. There's definitely like some camaraderie going on in the live chat that is not inclusive of me, but is trying to rope me in, and it's not working. Anyways, thank you, everyone. I'm going to call it. I actually started around 9 tonight. I actually ended around midnight, which is what I've been trying to do. I'm trying to end before midnight, start by 9, so that you guys can organize your lives a little bit better around like the stream, or you can incorporate the stream into your life in a more organized and predictable fashion. So it just means like I gotta deal with putting a toddler to bed when she doesn't want to go. But anyways, thank you, everyone. Please hit the like button. Like I said, I hope you guys had a blessed holidays season, no matter what you were celebrating. I hope I didn't go on too many tangents. I hope you found this useful, meaningful, helpful in some way. I have some very interesting and very applicable and relevant and I think fascinating streams coming up on sex and marriage and gender, which I think is just it's a topic that I am very fascinated with and focused on. I think it's very important. Uh, it's it is responsible for every piece of technology that we have, including language. Probably marriage was requirement for the creation of language, of complex language. You need society and language are co-evolving structures or co-creative structures, and they are both a requirement. They are both built on marriage, which is like the. It's funny because this is just another side tangent. Um, I When I was in Tucson, um, we went to a church for Easter with my brother and his wife and my wife and my daughter, and we spent Passover with my family, and then we went to church afterwards, the next day, and for Easter, and my daughter started like just being loud in church. She was just, she wouldn't sit still. She was just saying she wanted to go outside and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, let's go outside. And I walk outside, and it's just all these dads and their toddlers outside, just playing on the jungle gym and walking around. And then I was like, wow, all of us are like synced up without trying. Like we're all that implies an alignment of goals that is extensive. The fact that we're all there, the fact that it's all the dads outside with all kids that are about the same age at all around the same time, and they're all doing about the same thing. And I had this moment, this epiphany of like, wow, this would never happen without marriage. There would be no unification like this, because there would be no shared goals that emerge naturally when you get married, which is a choice. It's a chosen goal, is marriage, and then all these other goals, just fall into place naturally afterwards, and constraints and abilities too, and it creates a unified society. And I was like, just kind of amazed by it. I took a step back and I was like, everyone here is a dad. Everyone here has a toddler. Everyone here is trying to keep their toddler entertained because their toddler got bored sitting in a chair after like 10 minutes. And it's pretty amazing. Like nobody planned that. And it was like a meetup of the dads, and not a single person knew anyone's name or communicated a time or place. Just happened. And you need that to have society even be desired. There's no real desire for society without shared goals. If you only care about your own individual goals and you don't share those goals with most of the people around you, there's no reason to want to work together. It's just like maybe there's reasons to want to use each other, but not work together in a way that's mutually beneficial, and in the long term too, and constructive long term. It's amazing. It was amazing to see things that you learn you would never know if you didn't get married and have a family. So I'm encouraging if you to seek that. If you haven't, you will become so much wiser than you ever even knew possible if you do it right. But it's a chosen goal, and then all these other things emerge from it. So we're going to talk about that because it's relevant to all kinds of things. And, like I said, language wouldn't exist without marriage. Marriage is it is the glue between the individual and the collective, because it's a bunch of individuals having public and agreed upon commitments and responsibilities. They're publicly agreeing to certain responsibilities to others. That's what it is. It's individuals making a choice to publicly commit permanently, because that's the only type of commitment that's real commitment, to a to the well-being of others, and to like a shared set of expectations. It's like, you don't touch someone else's wife. Every husband knows that, like, that's why it's your wife. And same thing with, your husband. If you're a woman, like, that's your husband. It's like, that automatically creates like this shared understanding and shared like pattern of responsibilities and commitment to others by individuals, and a pattern that is like, when it is implemented across more than just two people, but it's implemented across a community, it is like unifying of the community. It is creating of the community. There is no community without marriage. It doesn't exist at all. Like, you can have like a little friend pack without marriage, and that is it. You can't move beyond it, which means you won't make language. You won't go or to the moon. You won't even be able to try and deduce the name of the theory of everything. And you wouldn't be able to watch people on YouTube talk about philosophy until midnight on a weeknight. So thank God for marriage. Anyways, thank you everybody again. Peace, and talk to you soon. Hit the like button and share this.